So start up whenever you guys want. And did you get his stain? His paint stain?
And his wrinkles. Don't worry.
My
You're not the only one.
They don't see the wrinkles.
I thought you said you got ready.
I know.
And
I put this on.
And me and Hannah over here just looking perfect.
I know. And the pain point is I bought this shirt and it was advertised as non-wrinkle. So, lovely.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's never non-wrinkle.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a shirt that's stretchy and I can't wrinkle
Yeah.
it. So, but either way, all right, cool. So we're good to go. My name is Robert.
My name is Chad.
This is Intellectually, the show where we teach you how to hold us professionals accountable in the series of real estate professionals, right? And we are here with a special guest today, Josh. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. How you guys doing?
Fan-fabulous.
Fan-fabulous.
Excellent. So we talked a little bit about how we do the introduction, but that got a little fun and chaotic. So instead, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, the company you work for, what your profession is.
Josh, project manager for Hero Roofing and Exteriors.
Nice, nice. So Hero Roofing, predominantly what you work on, but you also have a lot of expertise in other areas, correct?
Yep, I've been in the business for about 19 years now. Got in 20 after working in a kitchen for a few years.
Excellent.
Decided to
Gotta move that this way.
get in there and get my hands dirty.
Get your hands dirty?
Yep.
So when you say kitchen, what do you mean? Elaborate.
I used to work as a cook, line cook.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, grill, saute.
So
Yeah.
no, because I know Brandy, who's your spouse that I met you through. She said that she doesn't cook. You do the cooking.
No, that's not true. That's
what-
not true.
Maybe
Not
she
all
was
the
joking.
cooking.
You're
Yeah.
like, well, don't sign me up for
Yeah.
that one. That's awesome. But yeah, so we are in a series right now where we're talking about trying to help maybe younger and some seasoned investors when it comes to purchasing properties, whether it's your first, second, third. We are keeping it to the residential world, keeping it away from commercial. We'll approach that in another series. So residential, once again, speaking to that, we're talking about 4 units or less in a zoned area that is residential. Do keep in mind, if you're looking at renting it out to a business, that is still going to fall into commercial, even if it's just one single unit. So things to think about. We've already talked about just kind of understanding the market, different numbers when it comes to investment side. We've spoken to a couple lenders in the past, and particularly we just spoke to Matthew Dickens when it comes to the lender side of investment properties. And then we wanted to kind of get the idea, which I would argue the big reason people don't get into investing. And that's the fear of what could happen after I close down, after all these professionals leave me alone, and I'm stuck here with things that could potentially turn my house into what some have called a money pit, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So you, as I'm talking about that, you're just thinking, I could tell you don't have
The
any.
hamster wheel is turning. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And you don't have any personal money pits going on, but I'm sure you've seen your fair share in the past, at least 3 years of money pits.
Oh,
that you're
yeah,
like,
definitely.
This person made a mistake, and how do I tell them?
Or
Right?
they get in, they don't think they're going to get in as deep as they want.
Yeah.
Or, it goes deeper than they think they're going to go.
So true. So true. So true. So we got a series of questions that we wanted to address, and I guess we'll kind of just get it going. Sound like a plan?
Sure.
Oh, I forgot to say, we should probably acknowledge where we're at, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we like to meet because we didn't want Josh to drive all the way out to us, and sadly we didn't want to drive all the way out to Josh. So we met in the center at a local coffee shop that I personally love. It's called the Abbey. It's right in Belleville here, Belleville, Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, across the river. And the Abbey is just an odd, cool atmosphere. When you walk in, you'll see a stage, you'll see a drink bar, you'll see a coffee shop, you'll see a fireplace. We'll try and show you that stuff maybe on some social takes after this, but when you walk in, it's not your ordinary Starbucks coffee shop. So
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It feels more homey.
It's
You know
much
what I
more
mean?
homey and more collected. And you have a fun fact that you guys just said you worked with Abby.
Yeah, we actually we did the roof repair on here last year.
So-
Fixed their roof for them.
Yeah, no, Josh got here and he's like, oh, I've only been through the drive-through, but we've been on the roof too.
Yep, definitely.
So that's kind of cool. Once again, Josh just hustling out there. You had some ideas that you wanted to run through about the Abbey.
Well, one cool thing that I really like about the Abbey is, their coffee's delicious, right? It is strictly high-grown, I don't know how to say Arabica.
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 We're not coffee professionals, but we're going to
that
give
is
you some
not.
taste.
But it is trade certified. They do get the coffee directly from Puka Apalaka. Again, all these
We're nailing
these words. I don't
Puka
know.
hakalaka.
But one thing is they have very good high quality coffee that I believe comes from
Taste
South
it.
America.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that they really focus on too is working with these trades and farmers out in South America and also giving back as much as they can. So their goal
Just
here
supporting,
is to not only deliver exceptional quality and coffee and service, but also support those who are making their coffee.
Yeah.
Right? And where it's coming from and making sure it's ethical and all those things. Again, very rough idea of, I'd say, what the Abbey is about.
Yep.
So, and it's delicious, so I can't complain.
I can definitely second that.
Yeah. What's the one, because they also do lunch. What's the one sandwich? It's like the brie and cheese or something.
I've never eaten here.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, yeah. But yeah, no, I have business meetings here, and I would always get the brie and cheese or something like that. But it's delicious. So
one
you guys
cool thing I
gotta
like
try it.
about this place, again, is you can see right out to our right, they have a stage. They have a lot of live music going around
Yeah.
all the time.
Super cool.
And they got a
multiple times
patio
week.
outside, too.
They have a
Very nice.
patio
Super cool
outside.
patio. I
Hey,
like
guys,
that
this is
area.
a coffee shop. This is not a restaurant. This is not. It's a cafe, and again, you get live
They do
music.
well.
You get a very good, nice vibe here, especially when the weather gets nicer.
Nice.
So
So now we'll get to the main event. Poor Josh, he just got shouted out by the place we're in. But
First podcast, by the way, I might want to mention.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, drop in. Our team just left him a review because we had a great experience with a client that we worked with, and that's how we met Josh. He's oddly good at responding, and calls me up just to brainstorm, make sure I'm up to date on everything. And when I text him over, he's like this, and this, and then he moves on. Not a time waster, but definitely a time utilizer. So I appreciate that.
Key.
Yep.
Communication is key, especially in the industry. And being a project manager in sales, that's what you got to do, communication.
Absolutely.
yeah, and as we talk about investment properties, right, and especially for these newcomers who are inexperienced or whatnot, we really getting into the due diligence phase of it, right? When you come in, and I'd say that's the biggest fear for a lot of these.
This is the scariest thing to the end.
Yeah,
right?
inexperience. What does that even mean? How do I even do that, right? Am I even confident what I'm getting into, right? Me as an agent, Rob as an agent, we don't like to go out and say we're experts in roofing and all of these other things. We are experts in planning and coordinating the team. Right?
We recognize the market, the numbers, but I could do my best to get up on a roof, walk in through a property. I'm going to see some opportunities, but a keen eye, experienced, but more importantly, I would almost say an eye that's been so horribly abused. Right, because you've been through so much. You're like, I know what
seen
that
so
could
much.
cause. Yeah.
And not even that, someone you can trust, too.
Yeah.
Someone who knows what they're talking about, someone you can trust, right? Someone, again, who this is your expertise.
And
This is
homeowners
what
will
you
look
know.
for that. They'll look for someone that's knowledgeable, someone
Yep.
that they can trust, and someone that they can depend on that's going to be good communications and keep in contact and,
Yep.
let them know exactly what's going on throughout their entire project.
And that's one of the biggest challenges because if you don't know any, how do you even know that's what you're going to get? You call one up guy, how can you expect that that's the service?
Yeah,
that you're
everybody
gonna
can
get?
say they're a roofer.
Right.
Everybody can say they can
So
do
true.
flooring. Everybody can say they can paint. You know, you
Plumbing,
can-
electric, yeah.
everything.
All of it.
And then you get these guys that will come in and they'll make it look like a 5-year-old did it with crayons or something.
So
you know what I
true.
mean?
I personally
building
had
some
that
building
experience, yeah.
blocks,
And it is funny because I got some first-time investors, and they're asking me questions like, one of the questions you don't realize is, because this is your first time, you're going to lose so much money. Just hiring people on, you're going to spend more money trying to figure out who you can trust and who actually does the good job for the money that you pay. Because that's one of the biggest things some of these experienced investors have created. They've created a trustworthy party that they have a guy that does this, but most importantly, he doesn't overcharge and he gets the job done right. So
like we spoke about your one of your investment clients.
Yep.
It's our first investment property, and
4-unit, yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to juggle where to put the money and what needs to be most important and where to delegate where everything goes. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah, and it's painful. And I was telling, we were talking about it, just to go off a side note. You got up on the roof personally, free of charge, checked everything out there. Within 2 hours, you were texting me over. You're like, these are opportunities here. This could lead to that. And it was nice and easy to ask you. I was like, so she wants to know where to put her money. We got this going on with electric. We got this going on with plumbing. We got this going on with, some cosmetic areas. And one thing that you did point out, you're like, okay, well, keep in mind, plumbing, electric, all that you can see and identify the opportunities right now, right here. The roof, you don't find out for a while till it causes some serious damage.
Yeah, especially whenever it's up higher, 2-3 stories, you're not going to see it. Based on like a residential where it's a 1-story, you can see if there's issues with popped up shingles, missing ridge cap or anything like that.
Yeah.
With on a bigger roof that's up higher, visual, you can't see it.
Yeah, and I was even saying to the point where when you got an attic, that roof, if it's leaking, and you got tenants upstairs, right, and you're living in the bottom unit, or it's all completely tenant occupied. One, tenants don't pay as much attention as a homeowner do.
Definitely not.
But two, that roof is leaking into your attic. And by the time your tenant's able to see it in their room, that's leaked through the attic, molded, caused damage enough to start causing stains on the drywall on the ceiling.
Yep.
I doubt a tenant's going to be paying attention to that. Or if they do see it, they're going to be like, I'll get to it tomorrow.
Something small, starting off a little spot, and then over time it grows. And then by then, up in the attic, there's insulation.
Yep.
There could be damaged wood, rafters, insulation, all the way, everything in between the roof and what's in the actual apartment or
Absolutely.
complex or whatever.
So the point, I'm trying to get to is, you're professional when it comes to roofing, but you're versed in so many things. We've had you do projects on, and you've done great work. But most importantly, every time you see a problem with a roof, that's one of your biggest fears, to be proactive here instead of reactive, because by the time you're reactive, you got your $10,000 issue just became $20,000-$30,000.
Because you start doing everything on the inside, and then you come to find out you got a bad roof, and then you're redoing some of the stuff you already dumped $5,000-$10,000 into.
Yep.
And then there you go. And then if electrical could turn into a fire if it gets too much water.
So true.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of wires running through attics that we don't know
Delayed
about.
maintenance can be way more costly.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was a rabbit hole. We should probably get on point.
Okay, so when you get into the idea, right, when you say, hey, you got Rob calling you up, you're like, hey, Josh, I got a potential investment property I want you to go check out, right? When you're approaching that property, what is it that you look to identify? What opportunities are you looking to identify that could cost money? How do you identify them? What are your steps going into it?
Can I elaborate on that question a tiny bit more? Could we almost say, let's say you bought a property yourself. You're looking to purchase a property, and now you got personal interest. You're personally invested in this thing. What are some major areas that would hurt you cost-wise that you're walking in to look for?
First thing on any job is safety first.
Yeah.
The main thing. If I were to buy a property and go check it out, the first thing I look at is the roof.
Okay.
First and foremost, because your roof protects the inside of the house.
Okay.
So the first thing I'd be looking for is get up there. Would be looking for any type of missing shingles, with the age of the roof. If there's blistering on the shingle, which is from age. Yep. See if there's any previous damage that maybe the homeowner didn't notice or worry about because they don't have any leaks. Yep. Ask the previous homeowner if there's any leaks or has been any troubled areas that they've had patched up, and then go up in the attic and see if there's any mold from any leaks from before that they didn't fix or didn't address in the beginning. Next would be look at the windows, test the windows, see if there's any leaks in the glass, see if there's any kind of leaks on the inside along the bottom of the sills, because sometimes they won't notice whenever there's leaks. It'll come out and it'll go down below, and it's very easy to get more damage or more cost more money to put in.
Speaking to the glass, I had another professional. I was walking through the property. Tell me if I'm correct here. He says one way to identify if you have a double paned window and you start seeing fogging on the inside, that's where you start. It's kind of like wrinkles on a window that's coming to do the life.
Yep. And it's basically the seal. The seal's gone bad on the window. So so they do have there is certain ways you can test it. I don't exactly know
No need
how
to get
that is because
into
I
it.
don't really mess
It's
with
more
windows
identifying the
too
opportunity.
much. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you have any type of moisture or any type of fog or whatever inside those double panes, that means your seals are bad, and it's about time to replace that window.
Yep. And windows, like I have one property, I had a guy come out there. They're not expensive, but they're not super cheap. Basically, what I'm saying is they'll add up, right?
Yeah.
You say you have like 10 windows throughout the house, they're all starting to fog. You know, if your seals are starting to break, that means you got energy efficiency loss,
Yep.
right?
Your bills are going up.
Your bills are going up. Who knows what's happening around those crevices when it comes to mildew, mold collecting. So it's, once again, something along the lines of the roof that you kind of want to address. And if you have 10 windows and say that's $700 to $800 per window, you're looking at a $7,000 job.
Yep.
So it's something to identify when you're walking through
Which
a property.
can be a difficult decision for a home seller because you got to
Absolutely.
think, hey, do I put in the $7,000 right now? But if you truly, and this might be if they truly don't understand the actual negatives, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the window cost to be replaced. It's
Yep.
all of that comes with the, not even just the efficiency and energy loss. Again, what is it doing to the inside of the house? What is it doing to the structure, the foundation, with all that moisture, all that condensation, all of this stuff getting in? What does that look like?
Yep.
You know, 5-10 years down the line if you don't do it now.
In the eyes, in the eyes of an investor too, it's important to understand that if you don't have a proper insulation for, you know, energy release, either heat or cold, you are going to lower the quality of life for your tenant. And if you're trying to lower your vacancy rate, you're going to want to increase quality of life towards if they got an astronomical electric or gas bill. Some
I'm
things
saying
to
you have
think
someone
about.
that's renting, right? They're renting
Yeah.
for a reason. They're going to be most likely concerned about their
Good luck,
energy-
yeah. Good luck
energy
collecting your
costs.
rent if they have $1,000
You tell them
electric.
it's going to be $500 a month. They're going to be like,
Hey, what's going on
Well-
here? Why is my bill going from 400 to 1,000?
Yeah, all of a sudden.
And then that's why I come out and then I try to find out what's going on.
Yep.
You know, ventilation, attic, ventilation with your on your roof.
Yep.
A lot of people do ridge vent, soffit.
Can you
gable
elaborate
vents.
on a ridge vent?
So a ridge vent. So when the two peaks come together,
Mm-hmm.
normally there's a gap on each side. I've done a little framing with sheeting on. Before
Remember-
the roof goes on.
So the two peaks, you're talking about the roof
Yeah,
itself.
the roof. So you got your rafters, and then
Mm-hmm.
you put your sheeting on the rafters, and then you got your felt, and then you got your shingles.
Yep.
So the sheeting comes up, and they normally keep it down about 2 or 3 inches on each side because
Mm-hmm.
nowadays a lot of companies put ridge vent, which goes down over the shingle on each
Yep.
side and gives the attic air room to breathe.
so it's more
Makes sense.
Excuse, because that's one thing that was in one of our negotiations for our Hawthorne out in Forest Hills
Yeah.
to get a ridge vent put on there. Because
Yeah.
it's funny. The owner of the home was, I believe, the builder of the home too. Originally, so he was
A
living
home
in
builder
it.
also.
And,
Yeah.
But he was living in the house,
Yeah.
right? And it was just funny going back and forth with this home builder about
Yeah.
what needed to be done, and then getting a roofer's opinion on what needed
Yeah.
to be done. And it was just like it turned out the negotiation wasn't too hard. Ridge vents aren't very expensive to put on.
No,
I don't
not
believe
necessarily. Though I mean, it depends. It depends on the footage.
But that
you
was
know.
something that I learned a lot about the actual purpose of a ridge vent was. You
Yeah.
told me someone
No,
who
same
doesn't
thing with a
look at roofs.
same thing with like a gable vent.
Yeah, Yep.
and
exactly.
gable vents, and then a lot. Some people don't put either one, and they put vented soffit,
So
fascia.
we got ridge vent. Elaborate on gable vents and vented
So,
soffits.
like
yeah.
I said, when the two peaks come up, that creates a gable on each side of the house.
Yep.
And basically, they cut out a hole, and it's either they can do square, they can do circle, or they can do it like an octagon.
Yep.
It's all based on preference.
Yep.
But normally they put those in each one of the gables instead of doing gable vents. Or not gable vents instead of doing ridge vent. They do
Yeah.
gable vents instead.
Cool.
I've also seen soffit, and soffit is what's underneath where your gutters are and the overhang. That's what soffit is. And then they do vented.
Cool.
They do vented and non-vented through that, and they can, it's all preference.
Yeah. So the objective of this is obviously to release the pressure from the heat that's gained in the attic.
Yes.
What can be some issues that if you don't have these properly installed or not installed at all, that can happen in your attic?
Moisture builds up.
Yeah.
Had a client a couple months ago call me, asked me to come out and do an inspection of their attic because their ventilation, the ventilation wasn't properly done when the new roof went on. So
Yeah.
over 6 months, their entire attic was filled with mold.
Ugh.
So yeah, so I had to go out and I had to expect and see what they had. They didn't have ridge vent.
Yep.
They didn't have gable vents. They had no ventilation whatsoever. So gave them a solution, and yeah, I don't know if they
Did it or not?
I don't know if they did it or not. 'Cause,
You're there to solve the problem,
yeah, there's always going to be another contractor or noise company that comes in and underbids you, and sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. But
By all means.
yeah,
Yep. No, it makes perfect sense. And who knows? Maybe they're like they'll probably end up calling you after this podcast. Maybe they're watching. But in regard to it, another situation, we had some clients that had some a house fire that started in the attic. Could this be any possible problem there, or is it going to just build up moisture more?
what do you?
So if you're not properly ventilating the attic, could we get heat buildup so high where it could actually cause a fire of some form? or-
That I am unsure of.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I don't. Because
I would think maybe if moisture built up and they had all their wiring ran through the attic and up, because I've seen it where
That's
wiring
where the heat's coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, and the wires are wires are ran up through for electrical.
Yeah.
and then through the insulation.
Makes sense.
Maybe over time, a mouse or a squirrel gets up in there and chews on those wires, because I have seen that. Squirrels in attics, they will chew up wires.
Yeah.
And then
Crazy.
expose, and then you get moisture on that, and maybe it causes a fire with the
Yeah.
insulation.
Makes sense.
And then especially in the older houses, the wood is a lot older, so it catches fire a lot easier.
That was interesting when you brought up the critters, because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me how he woke up at like 3 a.m. one day to this noise going on his roof. And he's
Yeah.
like, what the heck is that? He goes up, there's a raccoon just gnawing
Oh,
away
yeah.
at the top. So how often do you see?
I don't see raccoons very often.
That's what I was
but
saying. I was like,
squirrels,
raccoons very interesting.
Definitely squirrels.
Yeah.
I've seen squirrels chew through fascia, aluminum fascia, and get up into an attic.
Now, are there things to look out for? Because that's one of those things a lot of people don't. If you wasn't hearing that at 3 a.m, that's a lot of things you don't catch until it might be too late. Are there certain things that you can look for and identify?
Any type of holes in your soffit or your gable vents. Most gable vents, depending on what style you get, there's a screen on the back.
Yeah.
And you won't see it, but if you always, I would tell anybody to check their attic a couple times a year just to see if they see any nesting from squirrels or raccoons. There could be birds. Birds big time like to push out screens in the gable vents because they can squeeze through, a little small area like that.
Yeah.
The smaller birds. I see that a lot. Birds a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know about bats. Bats like to be in attics too.
Yeah.
That
happened to us one time with a property. We had this one property, and no lie, my partner was on the ladder above me. And no, this is not a made-up story. I just remember this because it was a while back. He's on the ladder, and he's up there doing something, and he's like, yeah, there's bats up here. So he starts spreading some mothballs. This was back in the day. Mothballs can be pretty unhealthy now. I wouldn't advise unless you did some good research on how to get rid of bats. But anyways, this is what's taken place in the past. And he starts coming down, no lie. There's a bat on his shoulder. And I'm just like, what's that? He freaks out. This thing's in the, it was hilarious though. But yeah, aside that point, bats, also to your point, identifying opportunities. I've been seeing a lot of properties, beneath the gutters, the overhang on the roof, there's no caging between the wood. And there's like maybe some identified holes that I have also seen, like without it being screened or covered, you could get some critters up there too,
definitely.
something to identify. And I'm seeing that more and more with properties, so keep an eye on that.
As we move on, just kind of wrap up that first question. Really, if you were going to look at any investment property, whether it's you or yourself, you're really looking to identify problems, future problems now, but things that are really, could cause issues in the future, right? Really lifting up under the hood,
the age,
under the roof.
Basically the age.
Yeah.
The age, how old the roof is. I'd say anything 10 years or older when it gets a big hailstorm like last year.
Yeah.
Would be, be a little bit tougher with insurance.
Makes sense.
Insurance companies to get a replacement, but I mean, every insurance company is different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's one thing you gotta look at is, your roof, your windows, your gutters.
Gutters.
because that's your main thing to keep your water draining a certain way and keep it away from coming down on to your foundation and
Makes sense.
or coming down and going inside the house into the walls, because water travels in a weird way. It comes down the roof, but it can also come right back up.
Yeah.
And so it's so weird how water does that with roofs.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because I talk to so many investors, and obviously any investor can walk and be like, all right, man, like what's the age of the utilities? Water heater, HVAC, and external unit. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to obviously identify those. But here's the crazy part about it. Those are the main focuses. And you know my quote. My favorite quote is, confident money is so much more valuable than unconfident money. And when I look at like an old water heater or an old HVAC or furnace, I'm like, that's this amount.
Yeah.
I can handle that. And when it goes bad, it goes bad. The end. The water stops working. But these things you're identifying, that's unconfident money, right?
Yeah.
Those are the dangers. And believe it or not, like I even talk to just first-time home buyers, people that refuse to invest. The first thing that pops up in their head is like, they're like, what if the water heater goes bad? What if the furnace goes bad? I'm like, dude, the water heater goes bad, the water stops heating. The furnace goes bad.
I'm worried about your
I'm worried about
flooding.
I'm worried about like you said, like you got a bad gutter and this thing's just been perfectly feeding water into a crevice into the basement, and then you get down there and it smells like death, and you're like, what's going on? That's not caused by water.
That's
heater.
another That's another point to go on. And when you walk into a basement, what does the basement smell like?
Oh yeah,
on an investment.
Learn to trust your nose, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the first. I mean, when I walk into a showing, it's you go look at the house. What's in the basement for me?
Yeah.
What's
And
in the
then
basement
and then a lot of them will put the dehumidifiers.
Yeah.
Well, that's another big red
Yeah,
flag.
that's
Whenever
a
I
big
go to
red
show a
flag,
house,
yep.
I see a
Yeah.
dehumidifier.
That's nice.
I'm like,
Yeah, how come
That's a red flag.
How come you got 3 or 4 of these?
if
If it's 1 or 2, it's
I get it.
that's reasonable.
Yeah.
But if you got 3 or 4, I've been in their basement where they've got 4, and I'm
Yeah.
like, why do you have 4? And then they'll like, well, and then they'll start
love
they'll start
dehumidify.
showing you areas that you don't first
Yeah.
see when you walk down the basement. You're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just had that
Yeah.
last month. We went and did an inspection on a basement, and for a potential home buyer, they were already under contract, but I don't think they followed through with the contract because the basement needed too much work, and it wasn't until the heavy rain that came about a month ago to where they noticed that. So
Were they down in Dupo?
No, this was in O'Fallon.
I was gonna say, so somebody their contract is held up on in Dupo right now just due to a basement. But yeah, I won't just speak to
I
that.
love showing houses when it's pouring.
Yeah.
There'll be like a time
pouring.
where the client will be like,
That shows
should we go? I'm like, we should
your
absolutely go.
gutters. That shows your basement, and shows if there's any leaks.
Well, even where on the actual property where the water's flowing.
Yeah.
Right. Just
from
take
the
a second.
grade
Just
the grade of the yard.
Just take a second to see where the water's collecting, where it's flowing. If it's coming towards you, that's not a good thing, right?
Yep.
And I do want to point out when it comes to basements, don't freak out if you see like a drip on the wall. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing. If you see water intake, it's not the end of the world sometimes. Sometimes it's a simple irrigation problem.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
Somebody just needs to clean some dirt away from the windows.
Or fix a gutter issue.
Fix a gutter. And you're like, oh, that makes... So that's not bad at all.
No, what you're saying, don't, just because you identify an issue, don't assume that it's the end of the world.
Right. And it doesn't
Things can be
necessarily have to
remedied.
be a big major issue. It could be something so small. It could be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It could be a day, or it could be something that's $30,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it goes along the lines of whether it's worth the value of what you're going to be paying or not.
The cool thing is when I see a problem like that, I'm like, oh, cool, this could be an opportunity, because that obviously scared away 70% of my competition.
Yep.
I'm going to get this for a better deal, just to find out all I needed to do was spend a day changing some land around on the side, cleaning out some gutters. Maybe, one of the biggest things, like when I see areas of opportunity in the basement, you go walk around that place, and it always seems every gutter is like targeting that spot of opportunity. You're like, oh, this isn't a problem. You guys seem to be trying to create this inflow of water into your basement, and you're like, all I got to do
Windows
is
in a
move those
basement
around.
are also can be a big factor in
Elaborate.
leakage.
Yeah.
The age of the window not being properly installed. I give you an example. My aunt bought a house in O'Fallon.
Yeah.
Brand new from ground up, and she had major leak issues from 2 windows.
Yeah.
And the foundation itself, because they didn't properly do it, and it took months. But I remember as a kid, her basement was always flooding, always flooding.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A funny story about my parents' home. They built their home in 1996, lived in it for 20 years. It's the home I grew up in.
Yeah.
And never once had an issue flooding. Everything, worked out. The year or a month or two before they decided that they want to sell their house. Right?
Yeah.
It's always right before
about
you wanna
a
sell
month.
it.
And I'm talking with your
20
house. Years of no
Yeah.
flooding.
Yeah.
Month before they list their house, basement flooded, sump pump gave
Hilarious.
out, about
Yeah.
a foot of water in the basement. It was just.
And even though the sump pump just finally goes out and you get that 1 foot, you gotta disclose, and they'll either say, hey, what's this? Because there'll be like some kind of water stain on the concrete.
Yeah.
Or there'll be some kind of smell. They come in, even if it's a week or two later, and they'll be like, well, what is this? Why does it smell? Well, and then they're like, okay, now we got a bigger issue,
Yep.
like what you said about freaking out because of just a little bit of water or something like that.
And this is a finished basement. People
Yeah.
don't realize when it floods, what you have to do, you have to take the carpet out. You have to take everything out. You
Yep.
have to cut the drywall.
You have, you have to cut the drywall
all-
a couple feet up because even if it's only 2
Drywalls
inches,
are like
it's-
sponges.
Yeah, sponges.
Yeah.
Soaks it up. It'll be 2
yeah.
inches of water, but it'll be a foot of drywall you got to cut out.
And it's-
Yeah.
I've been in houses where you notice, you identify, you literally see this line across the whole garage, and you're like, "What is
Yeah.
that?"
Yep.
And they're like, "No flooding," and I'm like, "But what is
Yeah.
that? That didn't
Yeah.
come from nothing."
Yep.
Then you go
Yeah.
in the closet, and you have the closet doors have that same line. You're like,
Something happened.
Something happened.
They might,
Definitely.
they might not be lying, but
and I wasn't
Yeah.
saying they were lying, but
Yeah.
it's like I'm not gonna take their word for it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
by what I see.
They're
right? We're
biased.
gonna get a professional out here to really identify what the issue is.
So another thing, I want to also comment on the fact that finished basements are beautiful, but they're also much
Difficult.
better at hiding issues,
Yep.
right? Drywall over that concrete shows that you don't have cracks. So obviously, some examples of what inspectors will do is they'll try to do a moisture test,
Yep.
and it's very important to try and get out there during rainfall and things like that. But yeah,
So you mentioned insurance a little bit as we moved on.
Yeah.
Did you want to make a point?
Yeah, we can go ahead and move. Yeah.
Obviously, you deal with a lot of insurance.
Deal with insurance every day.
Every single day.
Every day.
When you go out to a property and you're identifying issues, what are some of the processes that you do? I guess give us maybe a start to finish of how it works. You go out to a property.
How about if I go do a roof inspection, I get up, I try to identify. We'll base it off the hailstorm, and that's
Yeah.
a lot of what this last year has been about, and what I'm still fighting with insurance and still doing inspections from last year. Go up and start looking at all the soft metals, which would be gutters. Taking chalk and going over each gutter, identifying marks because it shows up when you do chalk a lot easier than just seeing it.
Yeah.
And so I do like gutters. I'll test the gutters, the downspouts. I'll test the roof vents, the little metal slant back vents. Put chalk on that, see if there's any hail damage, and then look for about depending on the size of the hail. Look for indentions, little marks, little circular marks that are in the shingles. Circle them all. Do a 10 by 10 square is what we do because most insurance companies want a 10 by 10 square.
So they
want
look at a small fraction of
the entire say
and they judge. Oh, that's true. So they just
Yeah.
judge that small fraction of the roof
of the
for the whole thing.
not for the whole thing. It depends on how many elevations. So you have the
Interesting.
front and the back. That's one elevation. Two elevations, one each. You can have that's just straight. Then you got 2 gables coming off the back. That's two more elevations. So you have to on each elevation you have to do a 10 by 10 square per each elevation, and then usually they want 8 to 10, sometimes 12 hits. It depends on the insurance company.
Is that the same with siding too?
Siding's different.
We could. You don't have to go off
Siding's
on a tangent.
different. They can, with siding, you'll see cracks or holes, and depending on how many holes or cracks you see on that certain elevation, they'll either replace that entire elevation or they'll do where you just replace each
Panel.
Each panel. And I'm going through a couple of them right now where one of them we're replacing 2 whole sides. Another one we're replacing just pieces because they don't want to give up that whole elevation. So
Now, is that the homeowner's decision, or is that a combination of the insurance
insurance
decision?
That's insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. So then once I go up and do my inspection, I go look over everything. I look over windows, see if there's any cracks on the windows. Because on the window, it's one whole piece. You can't just replace one piece unless it's the sash. And the sash is the part where you move the window up and down.
Yeah.
That's the part that's where you can open your windows. So do all that and then write up a report, send all the pictures in to the insurance company, and then we go from there. They make a decision whether or not they want to approve it, or they send out their own inspector to do their report. So then I'm coming out doing this saying, hey, they got damaged. I've already identified it. I'll send that over. And then they'll send out their inspector or adjuster to do their inspection. So,
And you prefer, in past jobs that I've seen you work with my clients on, you prefer to meet that inspector out there.
yeah, I prefer to meet them out there either after or before. Sometimes the homeowner will already call their insurance before us, before having us come out. They're like, hey, I got an adjuster coming out. Can you be there? Yeah, definitely. Get hands-on. They're not, some of them will talk, some of them won't. I've had some that will say 2 words. I've had ones that'll have whole conversations for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like I was telling you earlier, each insurance company is different. Each adjuster is different. You can have a good one. You can have a bad one. You can have a good experience. You can have a bad experience.
Yeah.
It's
just got to be prepared.
it's just like in everyday world, you run into people who have bad days, good days.
Yeah.
You're going to run into the same thing with insurance companies.
And I've seen you with, I can identify at least 3 clients that you've taken on where you went to battle to try and make sure that they got the best coverage with the insurance company. So, you're not only going out there as a professional to identify the opportunities and then come back with your team and correct those opportunities if you get hired on, but I've seen you personally, sit there, claim sound arguments to make sure that your customer isn't not necessarily being screwed over by the insurance company, but being provided reasonable compensation correctly.
Think about it. The adjuster's job is to essentially not approve this in some
Well,
way. I wouldn't say not.
To identify and make sure it's legit. And
Yeah.
sometimes an adjuster, it's, if you, good luck keeping your job as an adjuster if you're going just like being like, you get a car.
Companies don't
Or
make
if you approve too many, or if you approve too many, then you're losing out.
Yeah. So he's got a job to keep his company in business. I would almost argue, going out of the way. I would argue you're going out of the way, out of your job description, trying to make sure that he doesn't accidentally or purposely lower the valuation of what is actually needs to be done.
I'll give you an example right now with a customer. I've been working with the homeowner and battling their insurance for 3 months now, and they still won't approve it. So I'm battling.
Now, your battle, like, you can go into specific, but obviously there can be this idea of contractors and insurance companies working together.
Yeah.
This insurance, not in particular, but basically what it is they don't want to approve the roof because they don't feel the damage on there is hail damage.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to prove that it is. And
Now, what is your concern with it? Because obviously there's damage. There's one party that doesn't think it's extensive enough, and then there's you who can see exactly I'm assuming there's potential issues down the road that you're concerned about.
There's already an issue. They already have a roof leak, and we're having issues getting it approved to replace the roof to stop the leak. So now we got to find alternative ways to figure out and let them know, hey, if we come and fix this leak and the insurance doesn't approve the full roof replacement, that repair is not going to be covered on your insurance, and you're going to be liable for it.
Yeah.
That's basically where it's at, and that's
your objective is to make sure they don't got to pay out of pocket.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And it's also to the point where you're also trying to get them a quality job too. There was another client that you were assisting me with in which the insurance company only approved a 3-ply, and you're like, this is just a lesser quality product. It's going to end up not being a premium level, project. And I'd like to make sure my client doesn't have to worry 10, 15 years from now.
Exactly.
And instead worry 30 years from now. So you went to bat to definitely escalate that situation and make sure that they got the quality product back.
And I did get them some extra supplement, extra money for them. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just those kind of mentalities. Before we move on to the next question, I do also want to identify when can you get up, because there's been times where you've gotten up on a roof and I'm like, any chance with insurance? You're like, no.
Yeah.
The insurance isn't even going to entertain this one. We actually had that conversation with a client's house down on the south side. You got up there and within 10 minutes you were like, nah, like this is coming out of the client's pocket.
Yeah, it was age, basically age of the roof. There was too much blistering all over the roof.
Yeah.
Even though there was weather damage, but the shingle is so old that it's not going to match. It was, like you said, it's 3-tab and not architectural.
Yep.
So yeah, it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And I told you, if I thought it was going to work, or if I thought the insurance would come out and approve it, I would definitely.
Oh yeah, like I said, if you're going to bat for so many other people, I'm sure like you're in a 3-month battle. I'm sure like if there's a chance, you'd be like, yeah, send them my way.
Yeah.
But in regard to it, before we move on to the next question, can you just quickly elaborate 3-tab versus?
It's kind of easier to show in a picture, but like a 3-tab.
We can post a picture up.
A 3-tab is an older shingle, and arcs are a thicker shingle, which lasts longer. So 3-tab, we'll say 3-tab lasts 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
Compared to an architectural will last 25 to 50 years.
Wow.
Depending on the grade, because you got different classes. You got different classes of architectural shingles. You got class 3, 4, and now they just Tamco, one of our reps just showed us they came out with a hail resistant shingle.
Crazy.
But it is expensive.
So how would that compare versus just like a metal roof?
Metal, it's all preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all preference. They make different types of metal, thicker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same as shingles to last longer.
Yeah. Is metal more resistant to hail? I'm assuming.
I would.
Because it's just dense versus actual damage.
Yeah, dense versus actual damage. I just had I'm going through a battle with insurance with the customer right now where their metal roof on their garage got approved, but their house did not. And they're trying to say that it's too old. Well, it's still getting damaged. You still insured their roof. You should still at least give us some supplement for that roof instead of just saying no, we're not gonna approve it.
So you're talking about obviously battling with this insurance companies, and you've been in this industry for about 20 years. Are you noticing more battles now than you ever have before, or is it still the same common?
Especially with the storm from last year, and anytime we have a big storm like we have 2016, we had one 2018. We just had another one. I think it was in 2022. Whenever insurances get hit big like that, they're more prone to not want to approve every customer, and you do have to battle. Some of them, they approve them right away. I have no problems. But I've noticed now that we're at the 1 year mark, so most insurance companies, you have a year to file your claim from weather damage, and right now, a lot of people are on the back, right on the fence about not claiming, and their insurance have already put out this much money, and they're like, oh, well, you waited this long. There hasn't been any major issues, so we're not going to replace it. Not saying, word for word that's what they're going to say, but just, everybody who waits longer might not get the same opportunity as everybody who jumped on it right away.
Now, do you think that's solely because of the volume of claims that they're getting because of the storm, or the idea that obviously costs of materials and everything are going up, or all of the above?
Well,
right?
All material has gone up, but they also, if in my eyes, if you get say the hailstorm and right off the bat you have leaks and you got broken windows, busted siding, rain, get in behind it. Some houses don't have house wrap. I've noticed when I'm replacing some of these siding, they don't have house wrap because it wasn't up to code.
Now explain.
Then.
Yeah, elaborate on
so house wrap is like insulate. Like before we used to use styrofoam. It's a 4x8 sheet, and that would go over. But now they come up with this wrap. It's a thick material that you roll out and you nail, and then you just go over that. Versus waterproofing, basically.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
I like it.
So a lot of so people who in the hailstorm at the beginning, when they first file a claim and they say, "Hey, I got these holes, I got this leak." Okay, we're going to go ahead and approve it. But somebody who waits almost a year with no inside issues, nothing that's actually creating more damage to the home, I would feel like that's why they're like, okay, well, you've waited this long. We don't see that there's an issue with your roof. And then that's where I come in to fight for it to get them that, because they're paying that premium.
Oh, yeah.
You should get the most out of it.
Now, these are obvious situations where it's questionable whether or not it's necessary or not.
Yeah.
Let's just say you have a big storm and you have a homeowner who has has a potential to submit a claim, but they may not necessarily need to, right? Because at the moment that they do submit that claim and they go through with it, what's going to happen? Their insurance is going up.
Yeah, they're
going on their clue
And if
report.
they're not going and they're not planning on selling that property, right, it might be a bit of a decision to make.
Well, time out. Let me also clarify. Clue reports follow the person themselves too, so keep that in mind. It's not only the property, but it also does follow the person.
even to the next property.
Yeah, we can go. We can get into that when we interview our insurance brokers. But just keep going. Sorry to cut you off.
Is there ever, I guess, a point or a time where you would almost advise someone not to submit an insurance claim?
Yes, and I have. I have told a few clients that have asked for inspection. I have a client in Colombia. They asked me to come out and take a look at their roof and give them an estimate. And I looked at it, and I didn't see. I saw little hail hits here and there, but they had good coverage with trees. So I said, look, I don't see a lot. I see a little bit, but spread out, not in a big cluster like I was telling you before with the 10x10 where we got to base it off of. But I said, but it never hurts to call your insurance company if you want to file a claim. But I've told them, hey, you're going to be wasting time. This is probably going to be out of pocket. But I said it never hurts.
Yeah.
You can get denied, and if they deny you, I'll fight. But it will come to a point where the fight's not worth it. Right now, with the customer I have that I've been fighting with 3 years, everybody else has gave up. I'm the third contractor. I haven't given up. I'm the third contractor.
This is more vendetta for you now.
Yeah. So now I'm like, I am determined to get this guy a new roof.
The poor customer's just like
the couple contractors before me couldn't get it approved.
Yeah.
Well, I am 3 months into this one, and I am determined. I am locked in on trying to get this guy.
If you pull this off, he better leave you a good review.
So
that's awesome. But yeah, we'll move on. I think we could go an hour. I think this is going good. So
yeah, we got about 8 minutes left. I mean,
okay.
Anything specifically that you wanted to touch on? I mean, we got into some DIY questions. I didn't know if
DIY. What do we got on here? Sorry.
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
In your perspective, are there things that you would recommend or can be done by your average or your typical homeowner? Right, something that's not too dangerous.
Fixtures.
Cost effective.
I mean, it all depends. If you like you said earlier, you've ran into contractors who build houses, and then they come in. They're calling another contractor to come in because that's not something they specialize in. Yeah. But I mean, I've seen some pretty bad do-it-yourself projects, and I'm like, man, then it turns out worse. They dig into something that they're not familiar with. Either, especially with electric, hey, I can do this. And next thing you know, house burns down.
Yeah.
You ever seen the videos where the guys take snips and cut the wire, and then they instead of shutting the power, they don't shut the power off, and they hit the negative and positive and blow the circuit. You can fry your entire electrical system.
Makes sense. And another thing that like DIY, I would say there's like 3 points in contingency if you attempt to do DIY, right? One, you don't find out it's a mistake until you're holding the leak that's spitting out while you're while you got your hand fully unscrewed on the other pipe, if that makes sense, right? But the other thing is DIY. There's some fine-tune algorithms that go into a lot of labor, like when it comes to building decks, when it comes to installing flooring, or when it comes to doing roofing or insulation in attics, that you don't find out that you did it just incorrectly this much.
Yeah.
In 3 to 5 years, that problem just amplifies, and you're like, holy cow, that DIY thing that I just overlooked or didn't pay any attention to.
I have a small example of that.
Yeah.
The same home out in Forestell.
Yeah.
And this is something we were aware of, but they had a kitchen in the or a little bar kitchen in the basement, the sink and everything.
Yeah.
Well, that sink was on the exterior wall.
Yeah.
Of the basement. Instantly, we knew that was something we needed to be aware of.
course.
Right?
Yeah.
It was one of those things where my client has good connections, and he was confident, if it came up with the problem, he would deal with it. But we were like, well, we're really worried about these pipes freezing.
Yeah.
In the winter.
Yeah.
In the winter, because it's on the exterior wall, and we were like, that's not necessarily how it's supposed to be.
And that's
blah, blah,
something
blah.
that could be as small as that right there. And and it's leaking, and you'll never know it until next thing you know, you go do something or touch the wall and it just crumbles.
Yeah.
Or you got mold and your our basement's starting to smell. That's a big thing. A lot of people will cut into walls and not realize, hey, there might be a gas line behind there going to my stove. There might be a water line. There could be electric. There's all things for, if you're going to do it yourself, you need to be more knowledgeable about what you're doing and the potential risk that you're giving yourself.
Don't watch the YouTube videos during.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a great example, because he called me in the middle of winter. He was like, you never believe what happened. I'm like, I can believe it.
Yeah.
He was like, we knew this was going to happen. He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I know. He's like, well, and again, he was just calling me more to let me know. But he had to
So
go.
we're getting lost on exactly what happened.
Yeah, so essentially,
It's easy to do.
Well, the good thing is we
many rabbit holes.
identified a problem, and this problem was not a surprise when it did happen.
So coordinate the exact problem, just to clarify.
During the inspection, right? And my client has a lot of knowledge too, as well, as far as this type of industry. He knows what he's looking for. It's not his first home, right? We identified that there is that plumbing or that sink on the exterior wall of the basement, right?
Yep.
Instantly, we kind of knew that probably going to be a problem, right? When it gets cold, it's going to freeze, right?
Yep.
Well, we going through the extension negotiations, we got them down pretty good. So that was one of those things where, all right, if it comes a problem, I'll deal with it.
Yep.
Then. And he had a good plumber buddy, right, and everything that gave him good, confidence. But again, winter comes around, he's like, you never believe what just happened. My pipes froze out there. I was like, man. I was like, that sucks. He's like, but the good thing is, it's like,
you were prepared.
I was prepared for
it. Was
I
confident.
knew it was going to happen. I knew
and
it
that's
wasn't
good.
unlikely.
That's good, though.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that if it happened, the problem happened, I'm more than confident.
He had the Murphy's Law mindset.
Of,
right?
hey, we'll deal with it, right? And it turned out to be okay. He will do the maybe improvements down the line once he can to solidify that. But it was one of those things that he knew it was a potential possibility.
Yeah.
So it wasn't when it did happen. He's like, oh man, we made a huge
freaking out.
mistake.
Yeah. That's
It was
good.
like,
That's good.
That happened.
I do also want to clarify. We had another property for a client, and there were pipes on up against in the bathroom, up against the external wall, and the plumber at that time, he did a good job at identifying. He's like, don't freak out when this happens. It's just something to be aware of. He's like, but the insulation on this property, he's like, I'm confident this actually won't cause an issue.
Yeah.
So if the property, according to him, so don't hold me to this, still get a professional to analyze it, but he wasn't too concerned at that time. So it's not always a deal breaker if they're on the external wall, just to be confident on that.
Well, that's why it's important to get a contractor
Yeah.
you can trust, because you have real no skin in the game other than the fact that you're there, you're getting paid for a service. You're not the one
Going to deal with it 5 years from now.
depending on how your contract is, of course,
Yeah.
laid out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Having someone come in and be like, hey, this is my true and honest opinion. It either needs to be done or it's something that you don't necessarily need to prioritize right now.
Which leads me to my final question with you, right? A lot of people will be scared to bring you in simply because they're like, he's going to try and get that price as high as he can out of me. He's going to try to identify areas just so he can raise the bill. We all know that's not correct, because if you do that, you're going to go out of business, because your next competitor,
Yeah.
all they have to do to beat you is not do that. So why, even though you don't want to do that, might you accidentally still project that outcome? And I'll give some hints. You also need to protect yourself,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So elaborate on, when you go out there, what is your intent on identifying opportunities? And I know that's a tough question, but I guess what I'm trying to ask is, like, you don't want to price gouge them, but you
Yeah.
also want to identify.
So we're family oriented. You know, we get
Yeah.
in our office. Everybody brings dogs. We bring kids. Other kids hang out.
Sounds awful.
So obviously, we want to
Chad.
help out the next family.
Yeah.
You know, and be there for a family. Just like if we were to call somebody and have them come, we didn't want them to help us out.
Yeah.
So you know, sometimes we cut a deal. You know, if they're in a hardship, try to cut them a deal. Try to do the best for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, hey, I can't really go above and beyond below
makes no
this.
business sense.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then I have to charge you. I mean, this is the
gotta
best
be
deal I can
transparent.
get. And I try
Yeah.
to, and I be honest with everybody. If I can give you a good deal, or if I can come across something, I'll do it. But sometimes I'm like, look, I can't.
You
go
can't
any
give
further.
someone the best service
Yeah.
if it literally makes
Me
no
and the
business
boss
Yeah,
were just talking
right?
about this like a week and a half ago. He's like, I know you're always wanting to give, deals to people who are in a hardship, but you can't always do that,
Can't do that when you're out of business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You got to
got
run a
business to
business. You
conduct.
can't. I mean, sometimes you can, but most of the time,
Yeah.
you got to run a business, and you got to make money, or you're not going to make money.
So that question identifies the fluff, and I would argue every viewer is like, okay, cool, I got nothing from that. We talked about this question. It's not on there. I don't know if you want to address it, but let's say if you didn't have a license and you were restricted from touching anything, your significant other was like, if you get involved with any of this, we're done. So you're like, okay, I can't do anything, and I got to hire professionals to do everything that I know how to do. How do you identify the BS? Would there be things that you'd look for? And this is on the spot question, so it's organic.
BS a BSer.
Are there things? Yeah. Are there things that you would advise somebody to prepare on how to interview a contractor that's coming out to identify areas of opportunity?
So coming to my house, if I wasn't if I wasn't knowledgeable, if I was just a regular Joe Schmo.
Yeah. What would
okay.
you like to know for a layman idea on how to interview and
I would go
identify?
in depth and ask in-depth questions. Like
Yeah.
I'd probably do a little research on what I'm having a contractor come out and look at. And I've had homeowners that do a lot of research. And one in particular, she did her research and she bombarded me with a bunch of questions. And I was like, yeah, she really did her research on this one. And that's good. That's good. Homeowners should do that. So that way they can find out and figure out. Now, not every YouTube video or everything you read or watch is going to be correct, but it's something you can base it off of and figure out, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But being knowledgeable about what you're asking for somebody to come and prove to you that they know what they're talking about is key.
Yep.
I'm going to do the same thing. Even if I have to call somebody out, I'm going to call a new contractor. But most of the time, with 20 years in the business, I've got a lot of friends.
You built those relationships.
in different parts of the construction.
And they know they can't BS with you, so they're
you
not going to
can't
waste
BS
the time.
me. I'm the number one BSer. You know what I mean?
And it brings us to another point, right? You are dealing with a lot of homeowners. I mean, how many also agents, real estate agents, are you dealing with? Because it's part of our job is to be the
Poor guy has to deal
individual.
with us.
Hey, we need to know what it should cost. We need to understand what you need to do, because we also need to hold you as, I'm going to be this
Accountable,
team
yeah.
lead and I'm going to make sure that this thing gets closed and I'm doing everything I can for my client. That knowledge needs to come from me too as well. So how often are you dealing with agents who do go out of their way and step up and are in this space?
It's a
rather than the homeowner?
50-50.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, it all depends. A client that I've been working on for like about a month and a half, they didn't approve his whole roof. They didn't approve a bunch of other stuff. I got him a re-inspection. The guy was real cool. He was real knowledgeable. I mean, he came out, he walked around, we sat there and talked. He had a good conversation. I felt like this guy is going to work with me and work with the homeowner. And I took and got them an extra $18,000 just from that reinspection.
Yeah.
Because the adjuster that came out, and
$18,000 isn't something to just be like.
yeah,
I want to identify that you said you got them an extra $18,000.
yeah, $18,000.
Hey. Okay.
And that's how much the first adjuster missed.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money to miss off.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it was half the roof, the roof was just a portion of it. I mean, there was a bunch of other stuff that the first adjuster missed. So
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
No, absolutely
Okay.
did. And we are out of time. This was
Darn.
awesome. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
This was awesome. Yeah.
It's been great. It's been
Yeah.
great. This is my first podcast. And I just want to say thank you guys for
problem.
having and
Thank you for
inviting
coming
me.
on.
Yeah, of course. You know what I
Excellent,
mean?
excellent. Oh, look at this. Look at the
Thank you.
professional.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So, guys, if you want to particularly locate Josh's company, how would you recommend somebody would find? Or
I
hire
have
you guys
cards.
on? Okay. I'm to the viewers.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You can Google us,
Yeah.
Hero Roofing and Exteriors. We are based out of O'Fallon, Illinois. We
Yep.
are right on the main drag, across from Shooters. Or you can go to our Facebook page, and you can give any of us a call. There's multiple project managers. Me, number one. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
But yeah, give us a call.
Cool.
And we'll come
Excellent.
out.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll post all of Josh's information with his company and everything like that. But other than that, guys, this was Intellectually. I'm Rob.
I'm Chad.
I'm Josh.
Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you later.